Could you believe that a world's wealthiest man, once full of promise and potential, who has remained in a coma for nearly 3 decades, his body alive but his voice silenced, trapped between life and death, while the world outside forgets he ever spoke at all? His body remained frozen in time. He is Prince Al-Waleed bin Khaled al-Saud, nicknamed the Sleeping Prince, and his story is one of unimaginable privilege, tragic loss, and the eerie question that continues to haunt millions. What if he wakes up? Born on April 18, 1989, Prince Al-Waleed bin Khaled bin Talal al-Saud entered a world of unprecedented privilege and expectation. His father, Prince Khaled bin Talal al-Saud, was a member of the powerful Al-Saud dynasty that had ruled the Arabian Peninsula since the early 20th century. His lineage traced directly back to King Abdulaziz, the founder of modern Saudi Arabia, making young Al-Waleed not just wealthy, but part of one of the most influential families on earth. The world Al-Waleed was born into was one of transformation. Saudi Arabia in the late 1980s and early 1990s was experiencing rapid modernization, flush with oil wealth and increasingly connected to global culture. The Gulf War had just ended, leaving the kingdom more strategically important than ever. For a young prince, this meant access to the finest education money could buy, international travel, and a future that seemed limitless. His childhood was spent between the golden palaces of Riyadh and the cosmopolitan environments of London and other Western capitals. Like many Saudi royals of his generation, Al-Waleed was educated in both traditional Islamic values and modern Western academics. His parents wanted him prepared for a world where Saudi princes needed to be as comfortable in boardrooms in Manhattan as in Majlis gatherings in Riyadh. Those who knew the young prince described him as bright and ambitious, with the confidence that comes naturally to those born into power. He spoke multiple languages, excelled in his studies, and seemed destined for the kind of influential career that runs in royal bloodlines, perhaps in business, diplomacy, or government service. By age 15, Al-Waleed was attending a prestigious military college in London, following a path that would prepare him for leadership roles in the Saudi military or government. The year was 2005, and the world was his oyster. The internet was becoming mainstream, social media was just emerging, and young people around the globe were more connected than any generation in history. He had no way of knowing that his conscious participation in this rapidly changing world was about to end. London, 2005. The city bustled with the energy of a global financial capital. Tony Blair was Prime Minister, the London Olympics had just been announced, and the streets carried the optimism of a nation looking forward. For 15-year-old Prince Al-Waleed, studying at a military academy in this historic city represented the best of both worlds. The discipline and tradition his family valued, combined with the international perspective that would serve him well as a future leader. The exact details of what happened on that fateful day remain private, protected by both family discretion and medical confidentiality. What we know is this: while traveling through London, the young prince was involved in a devastating road traffic accident. The collision was severe enough to cause massive trauma to his brain and extensive internal injuries. In the crucial minutes following the accident, emergency services rushed Al-Waleed to one of London's premier trauma hospitals. The medical team that received him faced injuries that would challenge even the most experienced neurosurgeons. The prince had suffered what doctors term a traumatic brain injury. Damage so severe that his brain's normal functions were catastrophically disrupted. Brain injuries of this magnitude create a cascade of problems. The initial trauma causes swelling, bleeding, and damage to neural pathways that control everything from consciousness to basic bodily functions. In Al-Waleed's case, The injuries were so extensive that he slipped into a deep coma, a state where the brain's arousal systems are so damaged that normal wakefulness becomes impossible. His father, Prince Khaled bin Talal, received the phone call that every parent dreads. Within hours, the family's private jet was airborne, carrying desperate parents toward a London hospital where their eldest son lay fighting for his life. The Saudi embassy mobilized its resources, and soon some of the world's leading neurosurgeons were consulting on the case. For weeks, the medical team fought to stabilize the young prince. Specialized American and Spanish physicians were flown in to provide additional expertise. Every possible intervention was attempted: surgeries to relieve brain pressure, medications to reduce swelling, experimental treatments that pushed the boundaries of medical science. But despite the extraordinary efforts, Al-Waleed's condition remained critical. The damage to his brain was simply too extensive. While his body could be kept alive through medical intervention, his consciousness, that spark that makes us who we are, remained trapped in darkness. The decision facing Prince Khaled and his family was agonizing. Medical experts, speaking with the brutal honesty that such situations demand, suggested that the young prince's chances of meaningful recovery were virtually non-existent. Some advised that life support should be withdrawn, allowing Al-Waleed to pass peacefully. But Prince Khaled refused to give up hope. In a decision that would define the next 2 decades of his family's life, he chose to continue aggressive medical care, moving his son to the King Abdulaziz Medical City in Riyadh, where he could receive ongoing treatment while remaining close to family. And so began one of the most prolonged medical vigils in modern history. For 20 years, from 2005 to 2025, Prince Al-Waleed bin Khaled Al Saud existed in a state between life and death, consciousness and void. His body, sustained by feeding tubes and ventilators, continued its biological functions while his mind remained locked away from the waking world. The King Abdulaziz Medical City became, in effect, Al-Waleed's permanent home. His room was furnished with the care and attention befitting a royal patient. Comfortable furnishings, family photos, fresh flowers regularly replaced by attentive staff. His father visited daily, often reading to his unconscious son from newspapers, religious texts, or books they had once enjoyed together. The medical reality of Al-Waleed's condition was complex and heartbreaking. He existed in what neurologists call a persistent vegetative state, a condition where some brain functions continue, allowing for basic life processes like breathing and circulation, but higher brain functions responsible for consciousness, thought, and personality remain absent. His eyes might occasionally open, his body might make reflexive movements, but these were automatic responses rather than signs of awareness. During these 20 years, the world around the sleeping prince transformed beyond recognition. When he fell into his coma, YouTube had just launched, Facebook was limited to college students, and the iPhone didn't exist. The Saudi Arabia he knew was still years away from Vision 2030, women couldn't yet drive, and the kingdom's social transformation was unimaginable. His generation came of age, graduated from universities, started careers, married, and began raising children of their own. The classmates who might have attended the military academy with him became business leaders, government officials, and family men. The world moved forward while Al-Waleed remained suspended in 2005. For his family, these 2 decades were marked by a unique form of grief, mourning someone who was still alive. Prince Khaled aged from a man in his prime to a grandfather, all while maintaining hope that his son might somehow return to them. The emotional toll was immense. Unlike typical grief, which follows a recognizable pattern of stages leading to acceptance, the family lived in permanent limbo, never able to fully mourn or fully hope. The financial cost of Al-Waleed's care was astronomical, though money was never a consideration for the wealthy royal family. Specialized nursing care, advanced medical equipment, regular consultations with international specialists, and experimental treatments all contributed to expenses that would bankrupt most families. For the Al-Sads, the cost was simply irrelevant. No price was too high to pay for even the slightest chance of their son's recovery. Occasionally, there were moments that offered cruel glimpses of false hope. Medical staff would report slight movements, changes in vital signs, or responses that might indicate emerging consciousness. Each instance would flood the family with renewed optimism, only to have specialists explain that these were likely reflexive responses rather than genuine awareness. The case attracted attention from medical researchers worldwide. Al-Waleed's prolonged survival in a vegetative state provided valuable data about long-term care for traumatic brain injury patients. His case was studied, discussed in medical journals, and used to inform treatment protocols for other patients facing similar circumstances. Social media, which emerged and flourished during Al-Waleed's unconscious years, occasionally focused attention on his story. Videos claiming he had awakened would go viral periodically, forcing the family to issue corrections. The sleeping prince became a modern legend in the Arab world, a tragic figure whose story captured imaginations and hearts across the region. Religious leaders and spiritual advisors regularly visited, offering prayers and performing rituals believed to aid in healing. The intersection of faith, hope, and medical science played out daily in Al-Waleed's room, as the family balanced their trust in divine providence with acceptance of medical limitations. Meanwhile, advances in neuroscience and coma treatment evolved significantly during these 20 years. New understanding of brain plasticity, consciousness, and recovery mechanisms emerged from research laboratories. Occasionally, these developments would offer new potential treatments for Al-Waleed, though none proved effective in his specific case. His siblings grew up in the shadow of their brother's condition. Family celebrations were always tinged with absence. Birthdays, graduations, weddings all carried the weight of Al-Waleed's empty chair. Yet they also learned profound lessons about dedication, hope, and the depths of parental love from watching their father's unwavering commitment. The nursing staff who cared for Al-Waleed over these 2 decades became like family members themselves. They witnessed the daily rituals of hope and care, the subtle changes in family dynamics over the years, and the profound love that sustained everyone involved. Many spoke of feeling honored to care for the young prince, seeing their work as both medical duty and sacred trust. Al-Waleed's story exists at the intersection of several profound cultural and medical realities. In Saudi culture, family loyalty and the preservation of life are considered sacred obligations. The concept of giving up on a family member, particularly a child, conflicts with deep-rooted values about divine providence and parental responsibility. The Islamic faith, which shaped every aspect of the family's decision-making, teaches that life and death are in God's hands alone. This theological framework provided both comfort and challenge for Prince Khaled's choices over the years. While medical science suggested little hope for recovery, faith demanded continued effort and prayer. From a medical perspective, Al-Waleed's case represents both the possibilities and limitations of modern life support technology. 50 years ago, his injuries would have been immediately fatal. The ability to sustain life for decades through artificial means raises profound ethical questions about the nature of existence, quality of life, and the appropriate limits of medical intervention. The phenomenon of prolonged coma states has become more common as medical technology advances. Families worldwide face similar decisions about loved ones trapped between life and death. Al-Waleed's story, while unique in its royal context and media attention, reflects dilemmas confronting thousands of families dealing with traumatic brain injuries. His case also highlights the vast disparities in healthcare access. The level of care Al-Waleed received, constant monitoring, regular specialist consultations, advanced equipment, and unlimited financial resources represents a standard of treatment available to very few patients worldwide. Most families facing similar circumstances must navigate not only emotional trauma, but also financial devastation. The international medical collaboration in Al-Waleed's care reflected the global nature of specialized medicine. Neurosurgeons, neurologists, and rehabilitation specialists from multiple countries contributed their expertise, demonstrating how medical knowledge transcends national boundaries when resources allow for such collaboration. On July 19, 2025, after 20 years, 1 month, and 1 day in a coma, Prince Al-Waleed bin Khaled Al Saud's biological systems finally ceased their long struggle. He was 36 years old, the same age his father had been when Al-Waleed was born. Of those 36 years, he had been unconscious for more than half. The announcement of his death was met with an outpouring of sympathy from across the Arab world and beyond. Social media filled with tributes to this sleeping prince, reflecting on the tragedy of a life cut short and the dedication of a family who never gave up hope. Funeral prayers were scheduled to take place following the Asr prayer at the Imam Turki bin Abdullah Mosque, drawing mourners from across Saudi society. Prince Khaled bin Talal, now in his 70s, had spent more than half his adult life as the father of a comatose son. His unwavering dedication became legendary within Saudi society, a testament to parental love that transcended reason, hope, or medical probability. In losing Al-Waleed, he also lost a defining mission that had shaped 2 decades of his existence. The medical team at King Abdulaziz Medical City, who had cared for Al-Waleed throughout his unconscious years, mourned not just a patient, but someone who had become central to their professional purpose. Their dedication to his care, despite the absence of medical progress, exemplified the highest ideals of the healing profession. Al-Waleed's story raises profound questions about the nature of existence and identity. For 20 years, his body persisted while his consciousness remained absent. Was he still the same person who had entered that London hospital in 2005? What does it mean to exist without awareness, memory, or the ability to form new experiences? His case contributed valuable data to neuroscience research, helping inform treatment protocols for traumatic brain injury patients worldwide. Though he never awakened, his prolonged survival provided insights that may eventually help other patients recover from similar conditions. The Sleeping Prince's story also serves as a modern parable about the limits of wealth and power. Despite unlimited resources, the most advanced medical care available, and 20 years of unwavering effort, some tragedies cannot be overcome. His family's wealth could buy the finest medical care, but could not purchase the miracle they desperately sought. For the Saudi royal family, Al-Waleed's death marks the end of an era defined by hope against hope. His empty palace rooms, which had remained unchanged for 20 years awaiting his return, now face a different kind of emptiness. The family must learn to grieve properly for the first time, transitioning from limbo to loss. The broader implications of his story extend beyond medicine or royalty. In an age of rapidly advancing technology and increasing medical capabilities, Al-Waleed's case reminds us that some mysteries of consciousness and recovery remain beyond our current understanding. Science can sustain life, but consciousness, that essential spark of being, remains ultimately mysterious. His legacy also lies in the countless acts of daily devotion performed by his family and medical caregivers over 2 decades. Every day, people chose hope over despair, dedication over abandonment, and love over logic. These choices, multiplied across 7,300 days, represent one of the most sustained expressions of human devotion in modern times. Prince Al-Waleed bin Khaled Al Saud lived 2 completely different lives. For his first 15 years, he was a young man of unlimited potential, born into privilege and prepared for greatness. For his final 21 years, he existed in a state beyond ordinary human experience, present yet absent, alive yet unreachable, surrounded by love yet isolated in an interior darkness no one could penetrate. His story challenges our understanding of life, consciousness, and the lengths to which love will drive us. It demonstrates both the remarkable capabilities of modern medicine and its ultimate limitations. Most profoundly, it shows us what parental devotion looks like when stretched across decades, when hope becomes a daily practice rather than a fleeting emotion. The questions raised by the sleeping prince's life extend far beyond medicine or royalty. In our age of artificial intelligence and advancing neuroscience, what defines consciousness? When medical technology can sustain life indefinitely, how do we define a meaningful existence? How do we balance hope with acceptance, love with letting go? Perhaps Al-Waleed's greatest legacy lies not in any achievement he might have accomplished had he awakened, but in the love he inspired during his longest sleep. His father's 2-decade vigil, his family's sustained hope, and his caregiver's daily devotion represent the highest expression of human commitment to one another. Today, as the sleeping prince finally rests in peace, his story continues to resonate across cultures and continents. It reminds us that some of life's most profound lessons emerge not from triumph, but from endurance, not from success, but from sustained love in the face of insurmountable odds. The boy who fell asleep at 15 and never woke up becomes, in death, a symbol of both human fragility and human devotion. His 20-year dream has ended, but the love that sustained it echoes forward, inspiring us to consider what we might sacrifice for those we hold most dear. In a world that often measures worth by achievement and productivity, Prince Al-Waleed bin Khaled Al Saud's life reminds us that sometimes the greatest impact comes simply from being loved completely, unconditionally, and without expectation of return. In memory of Prince Al-Waleed bin Khaled Al Saud, April 18, 1989, July 19, 2025, the sleeping prince who taught us about love, hope, and the mystery of human consciousness. What aspects of the sleeping prince's story resonate most deeply with you? How do we balance hope with acceptance when facing seemingly impossible circumstances? Share your thoughts below, and if you're drawn to these stories of lives that reveal profound truths about human nature and devotion, there are more untold stories waiting in Trueline files.